Scano, hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Lovely to see you this morning, Jody.
Thanks. You too, as
Those,
always.
those grandmothers last night, that was powerful.
Wow, I know. Did I have dreams last night? Oh, so good to see you. There's so much to talk about. So let's get into it. Let's welcome everyone.
Okay, I want to jump in with the land acknowledgement and then we will have our juicy discussion. As a settler descendant, I hear and we hear, as other immigrants, acknowledge the past and current stewards of the land, the Haudenosaunee, Wendat Huron, and Attawandaron peoples. Oh, this is an old land acknowledgement, but this area surrounding the Great Lakes is
Yeah,
steeped
like
in
you're
Indigenous
missing
history.
some people in there. What's going on? No. It's funny because you and I always have this conversation. Should we do
Yeah,
a land acknowledgement? And I'm like, it's up to you. And so here
you're
we
not
go.
gatekeeping. We don't have to do the land acknowledgement, but it does mean something to me to
Yes.
acknowledge the dish with one spoon wampum belt covenant that can come from my heart. This agreement to peaceably share and care for the land, the water, the air, the animals, and each other, and our ancestors, so that we can have a sustainable, regenerative future for 7 generations. This is from my heart. And acknowledging all of the stewards of this land as we continue to nurture and flourish. Blessed be.
Yeah. Thank you. And I love that because I think every time you and I talk and get ready, the land acknowledgement comes up, and it's so important. It's so important to acknowledge and give gratitude. And I think that that's what the point is. And I always use this story, when I'm educating or sharing information with people when they ask about that land acknowledgement. I say, think about back in the day when they were thinking, when the leaders were saying, how are we going to wake up the people, how are we going to tell them about the truths of the history? And I envisioned the two leaders sitting at the table like it should be right now. Like, I believe we should have two leaders, an indigenous leader and a prime minister, or what leader, however you want to see it. But I see that vision, and they were sitting there speaking, they were talking and saying, how we're going to do this. And it was like, well, we've been doing the Thanksgiving address for ever. So why not just take that and start there and bring people to their consciousness in their present time right now. So yeah, it's I there's some controversy. Some people don't like the land acknowledgement. They don't, but I think it's just about not understanding that it's about bringing your presence, like your mind, your consciousness, your wholeness right here, right now. You and I, Eleanor, sharing our sisterhood and believing that our conversation and the juicy conversations we have, other people want to hear about, and they want to have those conversations, and maybe they don't have that opportunity to have those conversations.
Yes, I love that. And the Thanksgiving address is powerful. I'll give a shout out to the Hamilton Conservation Authority. I went to the Dundas Valley Conservation Area on Wednesday morning, and they have installed signs around the main loop of the path. And the Thanksgiving address was one of those installations that they had done in partnership with Six Nations and other partners to install those. So that was really powerful to offer thanks to the insects, offer thanks to the trees, offer thanks to the herbs, the medicinal herbs. And the list goes on, and it's just gratitude. And I do a gratitude meditation every morning because I feel like that is at the essence of what colonialism has taken away from us. And I just want to read out why we're here. So this is Reconciling Humanity. Welcome everybody who's watching. I'm Eleanor Hayward. I'm a holistic facilitator in Hamilton and Halton region, and welcoming my co-host here, my fabulous co-host, Jody Harbour, who is a co-founder of Grandmother's Voice. We are passionate about creating time and space for healing, connections, and community. It's our purpose to bring together people in relationship for wellness and reconciliation. And this is the spiritual path to mental health, which there is a crisis in our community. How can we reconnect to our souls, our village, and our environment across Canada, Turtle Island, and beyond. And what brings me here is, like, ever since 2013, when I first learned about the residential schools in Canada, and I thought, how did I go through so much formal education through, elementary, high school, college, and not know about residential schools? I think it's shifting now, but only because of advocacy. And that is one of the reasons we're here. We're here to raise awareness so that we can raise collective consciousness, so that we can speak to elected representatives, because that is the electoral system that we have, representative democracy. And democracy is fragile. It takes people participating. And I would love, and like, one of the benefits that we have in Canada over the US, from what I understand, we have a bit more democracy in terms of multiple parties within our parliamentary system versus in the US, where it's the two-party system. And that was more of an Indigenous philosophy, that we are coming together to collaborate and to find consensus, because we don't need groupthink. We don't need a leader from the top down telling everybody what to do. We need a grassroots movement so that we can find consensus to bring the best ideas forward and honor the next 7 generations rather than the first term quarterly profits, which is how our system is based now. And one other thought on that's, keeps coming up for me is the overview effect. I saw a post that when astronauts go into space, that they realize how vulnerable our planet is, that we have this atmosphere that holds in our oxygen so that we can breathe, and realizing that we have things backwards, that we have currently an economy that rules the people, that rules the planet, versus we need to recreate a system that honors the planet, that honors the people, that honors the economy. Because if the first two are taken care of, the economy will take care of itself. But we've got it backwards. And I believe that is an effect of colonization that has separated us systematically from the planet, from each other. And because it's a social system, we can change it. So to me, that inspires me, that culture will change when we change. So doing that inner work, doing that inner healing, addressing our trauma, and learning to, like, self-care, yes, but also community care. So I will toss that to you, Jody, because I know one of the visions of Grandmother's Voice is to have a healing center. So please share with us why you're here and what we can do further.
I'm with my non-dominant hand trying to navigate.
Yes.
What I did notice, and we got a message from the last time, is that when I speak, there's some feedback, I think, from your computer. So we're going to mute you when I speak, and then I'm going to mute when you speak. So it could be vice versa. I'm not sure. Let's just test it. Oh yeah, there we go. I don't hear it anymore. So, so it could be our connection. We bring lots of this electricity and excitement. I woke up this morning giddy, excited for the series that we just started, and everything that you just said, and you beautifully explained the reality. This is the reality. And last night we had this speaker series begin with grandmothers and grandfathers from across the world, and I'm still, baffled that we're hosting this, but at the same time, reflecting on what you were saying about Grandmother's Voice and the Healing Center, and we deserve to have one. The region deserves to have something. The people that are here, the elders that pass through it, just the people that are here doing work. They may live here, but they do work in Indigenous organizations across Ontario and even Canada. There are some pretty amazing Indigenous people that live here. So, and we know this, they're just all busy doing the hard work, right? And so thank you for acknowledging, the work that we want to do in this community. What I realized is that the work that we did in this community is because it's my responsibility to do the work in my own community, and at the same time, my connection to the larger group of people that are doing this advocacy work for bringing that consciousness and the truths, the ways that we can connect to Mother Earth, so that we can heal together, because there is a lot happening out in the world. And because we have direct, I don't know that it's, you know, I hear some elders say it's no different than what was happening a long time ago. We've had wars before, you know, it's constant wars in our world. There's that duality, right? But because we're so connected, technologically, like we find out in a moment, we see things that are happening right now across the world, that there's that awareness. And so we are in a time, and one of the grandmothers mentioned it last night, in this spiritual war. They're saying that's our third war, is this spiritual war, right? Where we now know all of this. It's presented in front of us. We see it. And now we are challenged to do something about it. We can't be complacent right now that there's this war in Gaza and children are like, the whole place, it's horrible, right? So how are we waking people up to let them know that how you think and feel and pray and believe, that you are connected to those families over there? We breathe the same air. We are part of the same water. This is the true understanding in the natural world. So it was really profound last night. It was our first talk. And when grandmother Susan reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, it was just shortly after I did this to my hand. And I had this, pretty bad accident in June that I can't use my right hand for a while. And I was just, in that moment, I knew there was a message for me in this, and when something like this happens, just from the teachings I have and who I am. And it is that we are in a time to make decisions. We have to make a decision about how we are going to live going forward. There's so much out there, we can continue to extract and take and not pay attention to, how much we're surrounded in electronics. And we need to go back to the land individually. And then you will be, told by the land, or reminded by the land what your purpose is. And we all have a purpose, and we all have a place in the health of the earth. And that's what the true message was last night with these beautiful women. So I'm really grateful to have this opportunity, and to even, begin to do this work about how do you build a center, and not alongside, I guess, or through the organizations, or the colonized organizations, or the things that oppressed us, those organizations that were created to control us. So the work that Grandmother's Voice does is really, truly grassroots. And we've been building relationships with the community organizations and the service providers and the people. Because when we tried to work, it was the other way around. Let's work in these systems, and there's no response, because the systems are created to be tight, and that no outside influence, influences the way that they do and work within their system. Right? Top down, however. So yeah, there's a lot of juicy stuff to talk about, Eleanor.
Lots of juicy stuff. Yes. Grandma Betty's, from what I gather, like, she didn't kind of show her camera, but I understand she was set up right beside Alligator Alcatraz in the Florida Everglades, and that she was lit up by the floodlights. And so every time a car went by, there was the shadow that crossed, and you could hear the whoosh of the tires, and hear, trucks spinning out their tires as they went by. And she was moved, and she'd shared a vision or dreams that she'd had about Nazis in the US in trucks and tanks when she was a girl. And that she has an affinity for alligators as well. And the way that, pardon me.
That was right there.
Pardon me, my internet.
I don't know about that. I think it's like, spirit. You're about to speak about something that's really powerful right now.
Yes. What was the last thing you heard?
Alligators,
Alligators. That alligators are being used, that nature is
yes.
being used to frighten the prisoners, the illegal aliens, as it's like,
Right?
where do we start with that? Like, as a settler descendant, and that's one of the reasons I'm here, because I know that as a Canadian, I am ninth generation immigrant, which is like, I know that my ancestors had a part in settling Canada. And I don't know, like, those ancestor stories aren't there in specific terms of interactions with Indigenous peoples over the centuries. And yet this mentality is still ongoing. And that's what we're here for. It's, if we don't shift our mentality, because, like, as Jody was saying, this is a spiritual war. And there's psychological warfare and the way that we perceive our environment. And I feel like colonialism is this combination of religion, of economics, of politics, and, like, throughout all of those is this attitude of patriarchy, which is this top-down might makes right, and that there needs to be this conquering energy, that, like, the sacred feminine energy that has more of this flow of abundance has been made scarce. It's a scarcity energy. And how can we come back to abundance? And that begins within, with our own healing. So back to alligator Alcatraz, like, it's just awful watching, ICE, and I'm just going to call it, this is the new Gestapo. My German's not great in terms of the pronunciation, but seeing, again, live streaming, people being shoved into vans and taken off without due process. The rule of law is going, and this is in our neighboring country, but Canada is so intricately linked with the US that we would be naive to think that that can't happen here. That we are generally more educated. I would like to think that that can't happen. At the same time, I feel like that's, they say ignorance is bliss, and I feel like that only serves the privileged. And Jody, you're on mute there if you want to jump in. But back to Grandma Betty, and that, like, her vision is coming true, and that we need to act. And that's part of why I'm here, so that we can raise the consciousness and come back to an Indigenous philosophy of honoring the earth and honoring each other.
And sorry for being a little distracted there. Grandmother Susan was texting me, messaging me, and she's so excited. I just have to tell this story about how I met her, and thank you for all of that, because you were just as excited as I was to start this series with them. So I met Grandmother Susan 6 years ago, maybe, through Grandmother Renee and Gail, who are also co-founders of Grandmother's Voice. And when her and I met, she has, like Grandmother Renee and Gail, has been traveling the world as a grandmother, preserving culture, supporting communities, bringing love back to community, and reminding people about the connection to the earth. But she's been traveling, and deep in these communities with Indigenous healers and communities. So there's so much there. But anyway, back then she was so excited about the work that she was doing, and that I was starting this platform with the grandmothers. And and she was like, we need to get it out there. We need to get it out there. And I just kept being told, it's not right. We're not ready. We're not ready. We're not ready. And because we were doing the work that we were doing in the region, and really trying to grab the attention of those, the organizations or the systems of oppression, right? Because in the world, you have the Western, you have the business, you have industry, which is taking over people, right? Like, and that's fine. You can have business, like Eleanor was saying, we need to have its balance, right? And we've done it backwards. There was a time in this world that we were trading. We were living. Everyone was living off of the land and the natural world, and they were in harmony, and it was working. And then, colonization and industrialization and taking, that's real. That happened. And where we are right now is that our resources in the land is being exploited, raped, pillaged, and we are in this beautiful, land known now as Canada, and the prophecies that they have shared over this time was that this is the time that the people will wake up, and it will be the people that live in our country. And so when they shared that prophecy with me years ago when we traveled, I was like, as a mainstream woman, a businesswoman, an Indigenous woman who's connecting to her roots, believing that this natural world will heal us and keep us healthy, and we will live a good life. And I breathed that in, and it became my passion that we're going to do this. We're going to get the attention of the people. They're going to trust us. They're going to see that it's so important. They're going to understand where the grandmothers have been and why they're so important. And that, yes, we can look at it that, they were oppressed and suppressed, but I truly believe that, the Indigenous people understood. They were told that it was going to happen, and that the grandmothers were protected, and that the men stood in the front line, and they did, and they took the pain, they took the abuse, and where we are now is that the grandmothers are emerging, and the women are standing, and they're speaking, and they are sharing the wisdom that needs to be understood, so that we can live so our children can live. And so the message that I got yesterday from a few people that messaged me directly was like, what can I do? Because this all sounds wonderful, but I'm a teacher, and I work in a system. And what really can I do in that system, right? So there are people that want to know what they can do, but what really can they do? They can't. What if they could go sit with Betty, at the alligator Alcatraz? What would that do? And so I wanted to share with this. And it's funny because Grandma Susan and I were just talking, and she had mentioned in the talk yesterday that one person. I'm going to read it because she sent me this. One individual who lives and vibrates to the energy of pure love and reverence for all of life will counterbalance the negativity of 750,000 individuals who calibrate at a lower weakening level. And I was like, I'm going to vibrate. I'm going to vibrate my love, because that's always been where I want to be in the world. Even though I can maybe seem angry or defend whatever it is, but it still comes from that place of love. And when you have that. And so I'm grateful because the grandmas see that and saw that in me, and then put me right in the front. They're like, you can do this. We knew you were going to come, and we just didn't know who you were going to be. But so that's really what Grandmother's Voice was built on, was that I knew at the beginning, Grandma Susan told me, this is what we're doing and what we've been doing for decades and maybe centuries even. That the women, because they've been underground for so long, right, that they had to preserve this way, or else we would have been gone a long time ago. And so now it really is truly about the vibration and the prayer and just love. And even though you can't do anything about Gaza, you can't go over there, you can't go over and help the people on Alcatraz. You can pray, and you can light a candle, and you can put smudge, and you can put your sema and tobacco down, and you can go out in the land and breathe beautiful words, because the grandmothers and the elders and the natural world believes that they hear that. And what they don't want us to do is breathe or speak the names of those who are doing this. We can't even, even though we know what's happening over there, we can't speak of that danger or the what's happening, right? We can't speak the names of those people who believe they're leaders. we are to really focus on love and light, and sending our love and strength to those individuals who are captured right now, right? Who are being attacked, and hope that there is that, that our love will bring end to this. And I believe it. I believe that we can, and we do have time. I'll just mention Alan Sutherland, White Spotted Horse, that does his talk here as well, and he'll speak about he's doing the series on the eighth fire and the creation, actually, and it will bring us to the eighth fire where we are right now, and it's amazing to hear. Like, if you want, you can, like, for those watching, you can go back into our YouTube channel and watch his series and understand, like, he speaks about the big boom, or, like how the world came to be. And you were even speaking about, Eleanor, just like, putting your hands around the earth, and that we have this, ozone, or whatever it is, that space, right? That is protecting our oxygen, or protecting our life source inside. And we are not helping that. And it's amazing to be, this education piece of it is to really understand it, but then also have that spirituality in it, which was left out of society. It was just left out of the teachings. It was either religion, right? Your belief system. And it was never that you have the belief system in you. You are the belief system. So those are the teachings that, like, I love, when the grandmothers come together. So those of you that didn't watch last night, you can go back again to our Facebook page. And I'm also going to put, see if I can get Betty's Facebook page in here somewhere, and then share it with you, because her advocacy at the Alligator Alcatraz is quite remarkable. And she said she spends a lot of time there alone, praying, and just sitting there, knowing what's inside, but sits in her place of love. It's amazing that we have these human beings that sacrifice themselves, and they don't look at it as sacrifice. It's they like, this is our responsibility. What do you mean it's sacrifice? So, yeah, it's a lot, right?
Yes. And I've heard that before, that there is a critical threshold of 3%. That if, and I think I read this and it was like a business magazine, that if 3% of customers speak up, it's enough for the leadership of that company to change something. That if 3% of us rise up, it's enough to make that ripple effect. That butterfly effect is very powerful. And coming back to Alligator,
the data, like statistics,
and again, I like to see the data. Like, that's what I've heard, and I've seen it consistently through the years, that is the critical threshold of 3% as a number, a statistic. Yeah. And so you said she said one person per every 750,000.
Yeah. And this is like,
that's
sorry to cut you off. I'm just like excited because they always speak about how science is catching up with Indigenous wisdom.
Yes.
Right. Like, and that's the whole oral history, the whole oral, sharing of what's, like, how we're still here, the existence. And there was also another video, and I'm going to get busy when you're speaking next, and I'll grab the other video that the grandmother shared last night, of another elder who spoke about the river. Do you remember what it was called? I can't believe it. And I even did the video. I'll find it. And it was just about how we're all one in the waters, and that we are that. And so knowing that the world, like our earth and how we existed, the evolution is science. And so they've proven it. Like, the science is proving that everything that Indigenous people have to say is real. And so how are we going to flip it? So right? And so how do we just flip that? And it is going to come from the people. We have to demand it, that we just have to, like, do another COVID, but cut off all our power and cut everything off and just be like, right? Who knows what's gonna happen? I'm going to just look for this video though, if you want to chat a little bit.
Sure. Yes, that we're all connected, that like we all have 70% water within us, give or take, depending on our age and our hydration levels. And that's inspiring to me. And I remember hearing in science class in elementary school, they said that the water that exists today is the same water that existed with the dinosaurs. And that water contains memory. I don't think that's what I learned in science class, but then I read The Hidden Messages of Water by Dr. Masaru Emoto, who with his study showed that water will hold positive charge, because we know water's a conductor. That's why we don't play with electronics in the bathtub. But it'll also hold that negative, that negative charge. So that is how the positive thoughts like will transfer through the body through the heart. And yet I'm also aware of doing somatic healing. I feel like that's part of the colonized thinking. A lot of people are overthinkers in their head, and I'm a recovering overthinker here, and learning to come back to my heart and learning to come back to my body and realizing that like there's a lot of fear in my body. And I've been practicing some hypnosis in having this conversation with myself. And it sounds so woo-woo, but there are parts of me that are really like, there's like a warrior inside me that wants to like fight and protect. And yet it creates, it's heavy. Like it's there for a reason to protect me. So yesterday I was doing some work to thank this part and to surrender, so I don't have to feel so bogged down, that I like a fighter, right? And it's like, no, like our vulnerable hearts are enough. And I feel like, coming from the spiritual white woman community, there's a lot of spiritual white women who are like, I'm just going to sit here in love and light. And it's like, and I see that, but we're all connected. And if we're not politically engaged, if we're not active in our community, if we're not sharing the wisdom and interacting with those institutions, then I is sitting in prayer enough? I feel like that's what I struggle with. And because I've heard other Indigenous women say, it's like, okay, well, if the forest is burning, right? It's like you can go over there and meditate over there, or you can grab a bucket and chuck it on the water. And I feel like there's got to be a balance of both, of the self-care and of the meditation and sharing love and light, and yet taking action in your community, thinking globally, acting locally. That's an old saying.
I love it.
Back to what that woman said, like, what do we do? And I was at McMaster University when that Land Back Lane action was happening, and white women asking Indigenous women, it's like, well, what do we do? And the Indigenous woman, she broke down in tears. And I feel like I repeat stories when we're here. So I don't know, maybe that's what's meant to happen, but it's like asking abused people to say, oh, well, how do we stop the abuser? And it's like, well, at some point the oppressors have to recognize that they're oppressing, even in minute ways, with our own biases, and recognizing even in our own psyche that when we oppress ourselves, that we then ripple and will oppress others. So that inner work is so powerful in healing and reconnecting to our soul, to reconnecting to the planet, and having a respect, having a reverence for ourselves, for the process. That, it's so easy to see that a baby is a miracle, but it's more challenging to see that we are always still miracles, that we never stop being miracles, that we are expressions of God and Goddess here on the planet Earth. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share. I believe that gratitude is, I was kind of circling around that gratitude is essential to abundance. Because if we have a scarcity mindset, that we feel like there's not enough me, there's not enough time, there's not enough money, that is a form of oppression, that scarcity mindset. So to do that inner work and have a sense of abundance and connection is something that we can do within ourselves. So please, I'll toss that back to you, Jody. And we were going to talk about belonging. I feel like that's essential. We still have some time and what that means.
Well, and I think that that is everything that we're talking about anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I mean, that's what was taken from our communities through colonization, is that they separated us, divided us, separated us from our spirit. That's what they, they thought that we were, praying to the gods or whatever. We were actually praying to, the natural world. But going back to what you were saying about advocacy, absolutely, or what you can do, absolutely. And I loved how you said that. And it's exhausting, when somebody says, oh, what can I do? And we always say grandmother's voice is open. We have, when we're, everything that we do is being a volunteer to help us build this, so that when it gets to that level, we are actually sustainable. And so you're right, there is so much to do on the ground. Figure it out. But like you said, once you get to that, democracy within, we'll say, right, when you are looking at yourself and saying, what am I doing? Because people know if they're too like, anyway, I was just going to go into a conversation, but about where our I want to say youth, and maybe not youth, the generation before me, and how they're living, very materialistically, very wasteful, have had, like, I just see it so much in a generation of like living in wanting success, but at the same time, or material things. I feel like I was there at some point in time. I had this dream of, having my family in the big house and the, and this and that, and living there, because that's what society created for us. They took all of that connection to our spirit and actually, oh, we just got another message. And I was thinking about this when we were talking about, we're going to talk about belonging. Somebody just mentioned, thank you, about Bill 5 in our treaties. Completely. That's what I that was what the commonality, I guess, or what I was thinking about when Grandma Betty was talking about alligator, like that whole alligator Alcatraz. I was like, that's what's happening here with our Bill 5. Like, that's our Bill 5 right now. You are, and it is real. And so, yes, we are constantly telling people, stand up and stand up for Bill 5, because that is a lack. But you know what? You're right. Let's have a discussion. We should have a discussion about that, Eleanor, next week, because there is so much reality around why that is so wrong. And especially at the C5, at that level, that they would just pick that up and think it's okay. That is also just an act of, hey, people are busy, right? They're in summer, they're doing things, whatever. Let's just slide this bill in. And no, that's absolutely, that is absolutely, we can do. Yeah, we can raise there's some beautiful messages on our stream here. So please go back and visit them and engage. Eleanor and I always say, oh, let's just go on and do a half-hour talk, because really that's how long people will listen. Like, we go off, and the next thing we're like, oh my God, we could just do this all day. And I think it's really important that we do this and have these discussions and conversations, because they're not happening in a mainstream level where people can engage this way. It's happening, in smaller circles, and those smaller circles need to get bigger. And that's what the grandmother's message was last night. There was also a message that I did want to talk about yesterday that came in through grandmother Amanda, who is quite amazing. And she speaks with and walks with the Mamos people. And they wrote a beautiful message. Or she wrote a message that was approved by them, and there's the technology, the communication barrier through technology with them. Amazing people, and that are showing up on our platform to make sure that all people hear the messages from what they referred to as the original, one of their elders from one of the original communities of the world. And that's how the message, the letter starts, is, dear fellow citizens of the world, we, the elders of the original communities of the world, write to you with a heart full of sorrow, yet still alight with hope. We are living in difficult times across our Mother Earth as the The cries of women, children, and families echoed from destroyed cities. Mothers cling to their children in fear, and elders weep for a world that is slipping away. And so in this message, we're going to put this on our Facebook page a little bit later. Please read the message and share this message, because it is time for us to speak. It is time for us to act. As individuals living in our communities, it's time to find one another and build your circles up, which is the work that we're going to be doing on our platform every week with these grandmothers and grandfathers that have been advocating and protecting Mother Earth, or standing with each other to build up these circles so that we can lift the vibration and really start to bring change. And we are the ones that are going to bring change. So I'm not sure if I went all over the place there, but I just felt like I needed to talk about that. And we were going to speak about belonging. Everything that we just talked about, Eleanor, is belonging. All of these very important messages, and it's always been the messages from the grandmothers. How do we create that belonging again within ourselves and the community when that's what was taken from us? Because that belonging is the longing to belong to something more than just our homes and our hockey family and our, right? Like, we've been a part of this big system, and we have to return and be connected to again. It's pretty powerful stuff right now.
Longing to be. I hadn't thought about that before.
Right?
To just be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wonder what I'll do too is I'll put the you can go ahead and finish up, and I'll put another link. So I shared a link of the video that the grandmother shared last night, and it was really discussing. He was talking about how we are human beings are. I think we're amazing, and then there's right, and then I'll put the link to the video from last night as well.
Wonderful. And belonging, like I feel like I studied social psychology at McMaster, and the social psychology of groups came up, and we studied mostly Freud, but it was through military and the church. That historically, that's kind of what happened with groups. And then it was very much a shut up and do what you're told. It was a top-down directive. And people who were curious and people who wanted to question the status quo, if you stuck your head up above the crowd, you get your head cut off. And so we learned to keep our heads down and to just kind of take care of ourselves. And this rugged individualism came out of this, and to take care of yourself and pick up your bootstraps and do your own thing. And it's like, and there's something to that, to being accountable for yourself and responsible for yourself. And yet we're all connected to everybody else. And I see this, and we studied cults a little bit, and my understanding of conspiracy theories, and people are, when they're disconnected from themselves, that they're seeking connection desperately to belong. And so I've heard every good lie contains a thread of the truth. So it's so easy to buy into lies. And statistically speaking, the average person is more likely to, like, if you're faced with irrefutable proof that you've bought into a lie, because we're so desperate to belong, we're more likely to double down and buy into the lie again than we are to admit that we were wrong and that we were duped. And that is just tragic. And yet that there are other people, like the black sheep, are coming together to realize that our families and our communities might not really have a sense of deep truth, a sense of humility, a sense of connection, and learning to belong to ourselves, to feel, as we say in one of my businesses, the Love Your Vibe transformation, is to feel safer, seen, celebrated, and supported in your own skin. And I had to realize that I didn't feel safe I didn't see myself. I didn't celebrate myself. I always didn't really feel like I could support myself, that I was always looking for somebody else to support me, which is very codependent, because I feel like codependent is like we want to belong, but we really need to learn how to be interdependent is what's coming together. And on the flip side of this top down, kind of narcissistic way of imposing our will on others, on the flip side of that, the empath will emerge, or like a people pleaser, like somebody who just wants to make peace, and that they will do anything to appease the threat to feel safe. And that's not really true belonging either, is that we can just become a doormat and just appease the threat and at the mercy of feeling accepted. So both are true, to be interdependent and to learn to love ourselves and to feel connected and belong to our own soul, and to belong to the earth. And then we can come together again. Those black sheep can come together and speak a greater, broader, deeper truth.
And I appreciate all of that you said, because it's the Western way. I'm going to describe to you how you can deconstruct or understand how you became the way you are. In like the reality, Eleanor, you were colonized too. Like, we're all a part of colonization, and we've all responded in a way that where we were raised, or what our dynamic was at the time. But the government, I believe, and the people, because I say the government, the people, whoever came over and, thought it was a good idea, right, to try to destroy the original people here, genocide, rape, pillage, steal the land, hurt the families, had no idea, what the end result was going to be, because their attempt was to get rid of us, to get rid of the original people. But the problem is, or not even the problem, actually, the beauty is that we survived. And now the reality is we're all waking up to the understanding that we are all a part of that system. And we are all healing at different levels and understanding. But I'll tell you what you just said. Indigenous people don't, unless they've gone through the system and they're educated now, but that's not how we think. Like, I didn't go to school to understand what you just told me. I went to the land 20 years ago and cried for 45 minutes saying, I don't understand. Why do I have this much pain? What is this about? And I sat in front of a grandmother cedar and sobbed like I've never sobbed before. I say I sobbed from my vagina is what I was like. It just came up, but that's not, we call that our hara and whatever. But in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I cried from that place, that it came up. And I was awoken to that. Oh my God, I was a part of something bigger than me. This is not mine. This was all of that happened around me was not me. And the land told me that. And here I am on, a mainstream screen talking about the V. You know what I mean? This is real. This is who I am. And I'm going to acknowledge Aya Makowens. Thank you so much for commenting your truth on our platform, because it's real. Everything that you're saying is true, and it's true for you. It's true for many people. And what we need to do is we need to figure it out together. And love is going to help us do that. And that is just the reality. And that's the truth that the grandmas say, is that we will never be a part of the solution if we don't have love for whatever, and find that peace and balance within us. And it's hard. I'll tell you, I know it's hard, because I've been doing this work I've committed to my community, to my family, to my ancestors. And I really believe that when, a month and a half ago, when I said, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, this happened to me. And it was like, oh, no, maybe you're just ready for the next level. Maybe you need to get grounded again, because I was getting caught up in the the naysayers and in the pain out there. And much like last night, Grandmother Susan mentioned a part of, like, you know, when she said, she called Grandmother Gail and said, I'm not doing this anymore. I quit. I'm not going and praying and going to communities and trying to change the world. It's never going to happen. And Grandmother Gail got in her car and drove hours to the Mississippi River where Grandmother Susan lives, and said, what happened? And took her to the land, took her to the water. And so I believe that the land has spirit, that it knows our spirit. And so knowing that, yes, there are a lot of people that were brought over from other countries, and our people here aren't even taken care of. And it's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. And I know that I'm doing whatever I can to support that, but there are a lot of people that are still in pain, and we need to be that. We need to be that balance for them, and we need to stand strong, and we need to know that there are all of these things that got us to here. But how can we find that sense within ourselves and hold on to that, and stay strong for those who don't have the opportunity, and that are in that place? Because that is, like, I can't even, and thank you for, being able to visualize that. When the grandmas were talking, and Grandmother Betty was talking about alligator Alcatraz, I couldn't not visualize families being, and people being in a place like that on purpose, when they could go find old schools or old something and give them a life, because we know it's possible. Like, go drop them in the middle of one of those beautiful golf communities in South Carolina. Like, hi, like, just like, what? Anyway, that's my mind. We can only do so much. And this is Eleanor and I having conversations that, whether they're right or wrong, good or bad, right for you. We hope that the energy and the love that we bring to this inspires you to take care of yourself, go to the water, connect to your source, and become stronger, because in the next months, years, we need the strong people. We need those warrior people to show up and start sharing their gifts and being who they are in society, and being brave enough, courageous enough to speak up when they know something is happening that doesn't serve the people, all the people, and not just one person. So, Nyawa, for this time, I didn't think I was going to cry, but the waters come and cleanse you. And so I'm actually going to go spend some more time in that space and know that the work that we do is bigger than us. And so I guess we'll just keep being vulnerable. We should call this vulnerable humanity. I love that we always pretend, like, act like we're going to have an itinerary, and we're like, let's talk about this. And then it goes sideways.
Or does it go in a circle?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thanks for staying with us, for those of you who did and can, stay on our path of passion and discussion, where we get to empty, all of those things within us that we know stir us up a bit. But Eleanor, I just wanted to say how grateful I am for you to, have, kept showing up for me. You keep showing up for me and the grandmothers in our community.
Thank you, Jody, for creating a forum for us to come together. Yeah. And it is a coming together. And I'll just finish on your point of vulnerability and crying, and the cleansing is part of colonialism is stoicism. Is like creating this armor around our emotions and saying, be strong. And it's like, no, we need, tears are sacred. It is that water flowing. It is that. And we all have divine feminine and masculine energy within each and every one of us, and to let those tears flow and to honor those, because it's amazing how many times I have clients who will start crying and apologize. And it's like, no, fuck that. There's no apologizing for tears. They're sacred and they're healing. So thank you, Jody. I'm so grateful for you. And thank you everybody who watched and listened, and please reach out. And September 20th, I believe, Jody, is the next Grandmother's Voice in-person event that I'm aware of.
That's an in-person, and you know, right now we're being we're I want to say challenged. I don't even know if that's the right word, but we're playing with, you know, what that date is for, because there are so many people that have reached out to say we need more. We want more. Our you know, our souls want more time with the grandmas and elders. So in community. So you know, right now it's looking like it's going to be an event for all people. And you know, anyone can always come. Like it's never specific to anyone. The grandmothers and elders always say the messages that we share is for everyone. But you know, society kind of, you know, makes you put a title on it and say, hey, this is for you. So it's probably going to be just, you know, an open day for us to connect and build. And it is the day before World Prayer Day, so you know, it will be I think a very sensitive time in the world, you know. So, and Alan Sutherland will be in town, so that's going to be great. He'll be one of our speakers. And so thank you for reminding me, because I do have to create not me, I have amazing people that create all of our content, but to create a poster to let people know that, hey, put that day aside and let's come together and be together and do whatever it is we have to do together. Nyawa, sister, I love you. Thank you for everyone who, you know, shared some beautiful comments and words. It's definitely, it helps us. It helps me anyway, feel like I'm doing something that is impactful. And yeah, and reaching the people is really what the message was for the grandmas. So just sharing my extending my gratitude to the grandmothers who showed up last night, and to the grandmothers who sang with the grandmother drum, and they drove 3 hours to do that, to be a part of that. And so every week now on Mondays will be a live stream from grandmothers and grandfathers from across the world. So I'm really excited about that. We'll see you. Take care.